SBR Videos is sponsored by Sports Cash System. Click on the link below for more information. Hi, welcome to SBR Forum Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. We are previewing Week 8 in the NFL, and right now we're talking with Joe Duffy from OffshoreInsiders.com. And Joe Duffy has a record of 13-7 against the spread in the NFL videos that he's done with us this year, and that's all the more impressive because he doesn't choose his games. He just takes whatever games I ask him to take, which means he winds up taking a lot of the tough ones that, are for most people would be a complete pass. That's the case for this game we're going to discuss right here, Miami, New England. Joe, thanks for being back with us this week.
Thank you, Peter. You are correct. I would say about 20% of the games we discuss become premium plays.
All right. Before we get into Miami, New England, brag a little bit about how well you're doing this year at OffshoreInsiders.com, because I know you are.
Now, we're having a fantastic year in both college and pro football. This weekend's going to be even better. Most of our cards up. Visit OffshoreInsiders.com. We give you some hints on some of the intel we have. When you buy the picks, you are going to see our intel is better than anyone else. We're very specific why we like to place, and we got some great stuff this weekend at OffshoreInsiders.com.
All right. Well, Joe, I really appreciate that you just take whatever game I ask you to take each week. And this one, Miami, New England, the reason you're getting this one is because no other capper that I do previews with wanted this one. No one else wanted to touch it. And I understand why. For me, it's going to be a complete pass unless you can sell me on some side here. New England 6.5-point home favorite, totals 44.5 or 45. And, of course, Miami blew it against Buffalo last week, and they are not looking good at all. Their offensive line is in absolute disarray, not getting it done. Tannehill is having a ton of turnovers, problems with turnovers at quarterback. New England, though, they always have the Brady magic going for them. And they're getting Gronkowski back. But even with Gronk back last week, their passing game was still having a lot of problems. They have a lot of injuries on defense. So, I wouldn't want to bet on either team here. For me, it's going to be a pass. What do you have to say about this game, Joe Duffy?
Well, no, you're right. But I will say one thing, that sometimes the ugliest games for the average sports fan are the prettiest games for the better. So it's not always the marquee games that are the best to bet on. In fact, more times than not, it's the opposite way around.
Absolutely, Joe Duffy. I completely agree with you on that. But also, sometimes the ugliest games are also very ugly from a betting perspective. And to my eye, this is one of those games. But let's see what you have to say about it.
Now, this is a game where I think that Miami will continue to regress to the mean. I was thrown off a little bit by Miami. I believe in the preseason video we did, I said even one of the things that I'm going to look for is Miami was a classic example of a team that performed a whole heck of a lot better in the preseason publications. A lot was expected out of them. They were seemingly everybody's sheet team, but I just didn't see it on the field. Then all of a sudden they started to prove those people right and me wrong. They beat Indianapolis. They beat Atlanta when Atlanta was very healthy, but now they've regressed to the mean. I was never a big fan of Ryan Tannehill. He's showing why. Miami has really abandoned their running game. They struggled in week 1, but actually since week 1, week 2 on, they're number 6 in the league in yards per rush, and yet they've abandoned that. They continue to throw downfield. Tannehill continues to struggle. Miami is a great fade situation. They're regressing to their mean, and let's fade them why they continue to regress.
No, you make good points. I just sort of want to ask you, just playing devil's advocate for the things that, might concern people about betting on New England. First of all, 6.5 points is a lot. And even with Gronk back, the Pats passing game just still did not look good last week. And they have a ton of injuries on defense. So, Brady, if the Brady magic comes into play, it's usually where they're like a very small underdog or a very small favorite, and Brady comes in. It's a close game, and the Pats pull it out. But 6.5 points, you really want to bet on the Brady magic with all those negatives, giving 6.5 points?
Well, you brought up a good point. Rob Gronkowski is back, and one of my favorite sites for the handicapping intel is ESPN. I know a lot of people call it the 4-letter evil empire, but they have their stats section, and they broke down this week. I recommend that. I don't even know if it's part of the ESPN Insider or not. I subscribe to that, but I recommend it to anyone who handicaps themselves. They broke it down how Brady has been much more effective throwing to veterans than he has his rookie receivers. They have something that they call the true quarterback rating, which I do think from a handicapping standpoint is better than the NFL official rating. And he is so much better throwing the ball to his veterans. And in fact, last week, he threw the ball, Gronkowski played 51 out of 79 snaps and was targeted 17 times. 17 times for a guy who is rusty. Well, you know that he'll be a little less rusty this week. Brady is clearly much more comfortable in throwing the ball to his veterans. That was statistically proven by ESPN, that great article that I said I would recommend everyone read. So he is a huge return for New England. And Tom Brady returning to form? Why do I think he will? Well, because he's Tom Brady, but add to that the specific reason that he has his favorite target back. I do believe that the old Tom Brady is about to reappear.
Okay, and then what about all the injuries on defense and the big line, 6.5 points? I have to say, I'm still not convinced. I'm not convinced that Miami is a side, obviously, but it's still feeling like a pass to me.
Yeah, no, you're right. They do have injuries on defense. And again, even when they were winning Super Bowls, they overcame more than their share of injuries. But
Sure.
Miami's offense is ugly. They built up, I think, deceptive numbers the first 3 weeks of the year. But Tannehill, and there are some, he's got 7 turnovers, 5 interceptions, 2 fumbles in the past 3 games. And as I said, I think they've become too obsessed with trying to open it up. They got Mike Wallace. They thought the only missing piece was their deep game. They thought Mike Wallace was their savior. And they seem so intent on proving that Mike Wallace was going to be their savior than they are to going to their strength. And their running game, take a look at their yards per rush the past several weeks. But yet, for whatever reason, they're just not running the ball enough. They seem to want to develop this Tannehill to Wallace, this Tannehill to Wallace quarterback to receiver punch, and it's not working.
All right, well, I appreciate you taking this game, Joe Duffy, and let's just be perfectly clear to anyone watching this game. This is far from like Joe Duffy's favorite pick of the week. This is not one of his premium plays. This is just a game that no one else wanted. I asked him to take, and he agreed to take it. So I appreciate it, Joe Duffy. Going on the record with Pats minus 6.5. Thanks, Joe. Talk to you again next week.